Thank you for joining us, everyone. I just want to introduce myself. My name is Daniel Chitu. I am the Global Business Chair for the GBC. We are RAISM's arm for reaching out to Sarasota and Manatee counties in terms of exploring and taking advantage of the business worldwide coming into this area. We're really excited about the people that we have today. We have something for everyone, I think. And what we're going to do is I'll introduce the panelists one at a time, and then later on what we're going to do is we'll go back and give their backgrounds and everything. But first, I also like to thank Pat Tan and Gloria Reiber and Carla Raymond Kidd for the help putting together, and of course, as always, Cassidy, Denise, Gina, and TJ for all that they do for RAISM and for all our membership. We want to thank all the attendees for coming here. And one of the things we're noticing is, I think about a year or two ago, we did something on global risk. And these are part of this. And out of that came this idea of let's spotlight on any a certain country that might be different than what we're used to here. And this will be extremely important for everybody that's here. As you know, we've had these with the COVID and everything that's happening. A lot of countries are choosing to come to the United States afterwards, with the bond markets being lower in their countries. Are wanting to come here, and we're looking to get maybe 20% of all the once the countries open up of our sales are going to be through international. So it's very, very important that everybody gets interested and knowledgeable about these facts. Spoke to the Bank of Canada, the Royal Bank of Canada the other day, and they are saying that they're going to have a pent-up demand of Canadians coming here after April. So please listen to everybody here. We have this is the first ever that we're doing this event here. And so let me go ahead and introduce our guest. Aldina Sousa is with the NAR Global Ambassador to Spain. Aldina, can you raise your hand to see there? Okay. And then we have next Jeff Curtis. Jeff is a senior advisor at Sotheby's in Barcelona, and he's been nice enough to stay up and available for us. So we thank you for your time and effort. And yep, and Steve Maggi is an immigration attorney. He is specialized with many different countries. And one of the things when I was doing some research on him and looking at him is his passion, because he himself was an immigrant, and his passion to helping people. It's amazing. If you get in all of our guests here have YouTube places you can go and visit. And last, the first time ever, Fatima. Fatima is going to be cooking on a Spanish meal for us later on, and everybody gets a chance to take a look at that. And she also has some special things for us. So why don't we go back, and I'm going to go back, and we're going to just introduce Aldina for her background. So most of you guys know about the Global Ambassador system, and that's a U.S.-based NAR members appointed by the NAR president as his or her liaison to real estate professionals in their assigned countries. Appointees are generally CIPS designees and ideally have a knowledge of the country's culture and language. Appointments are made every year and at the NAR convention, and sometimes they're asked to go on because of their extreme knowledge in those areas. If you want to take a look at the global ambassadors later on, you can see that at the NAR of the global ambassadors are appointed and who their names are. And if you're specializing in a field or wanting to go into a field, that's the person you need to do to kind of open the doors for you. Here, we're also knowing for England, Spain and Portugal are places where they want. So they're part of our competition that we're going to be looking at. So, Aldina, would you like to go ahead and start us off?
Thank you. I start by saying thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and share what is the NAR's global mission. NAR's global mission statement is to render global real estate markets accessible and profitable and ethical for realtors to conduct business around the world. NAR is the voice of the real estate professionals, and we take into account that NAR is an organization with the largest network in the market that is very proud of one of the core values to its members first. And important to know, one of our strategic goals to add the value to its members by providing the resources, the tools, and to help them become more successful in transaction real estate globally. The National Association of Realtors strives to be collective force and influences and shapes the real estate industry. It aims to be the main defender to the right to use and transfer real estate, to be recognized as a leader in the development of standards of efficiency, effectiveness, and ethical real estate practice, valued by the real estate professionals and considered by them as the key to their success. Our international members, I want to point out that NAR maintains a relationship with more than 100 organized real estate associations around the world in 85 countries, to be more precise. And this cooperation with international members, the members must be from the International Association. They must conduct business with a code of ethics comparable to our code of ethics in their country, which maintains collaboration with NAR. The Spanish International Real Estate Association, SIRA, has had a collaboration agreement with NAR since November 2014, when it signed the agreement in New Orleans on the occasion of one of the annual conferences that year. According to this bilateral agreement, SIRA, the Spanish International Realty Association, acts in similar way to the local association of realtors in Spain, and membership of SIRA is automatically extended to the membership of the National Association of Realtors, with the member immediately obtains the international status. So in other words, the bilateral agreement that is operating with SIRA and NAR brings benefits to the IRMs, International Real Estate members. What are those advantages? The realtor brand already identifies the best profession in many countries around the world. The Spanish International Realty Association undertakes before NAR and before its Spanish members to extend the recognition of this brand in the country of Spain. The membership of the international realtor community is a guarantee to facilitate the network, the contacts with individuals and other professionals around the world. And all the realtors have access to a wealth of materials, content, roles, services in English. And one of the tasks from Spanish International Realty Association is to collaborate in translating some of these materials to service in Spain. And those are some of the advantages that NAR provides to another association in other countries that have the relationship with the NAR.
So Aldina, if a person was wanting to expand, either going to Spain or coming back, would they contact you first, or would they go in country there first and talk to someone like to Jeff, or how would you suggest that relationship begin?
Daniel, you are asking the public or as
realtors?
Realtor. The realtor in USA?
Yes.
The realtors in USA through NAR website, they have the global reach They have the directory where they can access and look for a realtor anywhere in the country. They can look for by the language they speak. They can look for by the city or by the state and find the realtor that they're looking for. Did I answer your question?
Yes. So if I wanted to establish a business and I didn't know anybody, that's how you would suggest that we just pick a place, or would they
you were asking me if you as a realtor would like to start a business in another country?
that, or also have that relationship that came back and forth to how do I establish a relationship with someone like maybe with Jeff or someplace else to have them do in the not here, and so we can open it. Yeah.
Yes. The relationship, this is the best thing is the networking. And there are several ways you can do that. In order to transact business globally, one does not have to travel. It's all about connections. And through the webinars, there's the conference, annual conferences, webinars, there's constant associations. Our association has so many resources that you can look for to reach your goal.
Okay. So you suggested a person possibly come and go to something like Quest or something that's happening in Spain, or one of these events, seminars to meet people and to build the relationships, or would it be more one-on-one that you reach out through the system?
Can you elaborate more on the question?
Well, I was just thinking about there's a lot of people that we have with the GBC. Some of them are in it because they have a heart for the international being, right? And they don't really know how to get in. They'll learn some from people like Pat and Carla at the CIPS, but how do they, and if they take up what your advantage, we'll look at the book on there, and we know there's seminars that are out there. How did you do yours? How did you build your relationships? Yeah.
Absolutely. I started actually because I'm in real estate. I'm still a realtor. I do business every day. And I'm multi-language. I speak three different languages. And that opened the doors to do business with international clients. And through that, I felt the need of taking the course CIPS. CIPS is absolutely one of the fantastic tools any realtor can do, because it does open doors in big proportions. And through CIPS, I was able to have access to other tools that I did not if I was not certified. And that, I can tell you, jump starts to the global world.
Wonderful. Is there anything else that you'd like to recommend? We'll come back and give everybody an opportunity. As I see questions that pop up, we'll bring those in as well. And anybody listening, if they have a question during a speaker, just pop it on the chat and we'll be able to bring that together on that. And so anything else that you'd like to give suggestion to a new person or an existing pro?
I believe that any realtor that wants to move to the next level should take the CIPS certification. Why? Because we are in a world, and especially you see now after COVID-19, where the world is all connected, and business are no longer to be done within our communities. They are going over the borders. And that's what would be my recommendation, the CIPS.
I just thought of one other question that I had. Do you run into, I know like Canada, I know that's not here, but they have a special banking relationships that to go. And a lot of times you have people that are coming, you also do mortgages, correct? Or your company does?
No, I don't.
Okay,
I don't do mortgages, but I do know a little bit to the experiences I had with my clients, what they have faced in terms of financing and moving the funds to to USA or vice versa, but I'm sure Steve is going to cover that.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you. And any questions as you want, anybody on the from the audience, if they want to put any questions, we'll go and put them up. Next, we'll turn to Jeff Curtis. Jeff has 20 years as a licensed real estate property investor and developer in Los Angeles and Florida. And he decided to go to Barcelona, Catalonia, Spain, and has joined Barcelona and Costa Brava Sotheby's International Realty. Interesting to why he did that. That's two big markets to another market there. One of his goals is to work relocations, second home investments, vacation homes, referral business for international clients here in one of Europe's most exciting cities and regions, providing guidance for buyers interested in the golden visa, a path for a European residency for individuals and families through real estate purchase. Further, he can help with Spanish banks, bureaucracy through the process and a process of management after acquisition. He has worked from Stitches up to Costa Brava, locating extraordinary properties to listed market for new development projects to existing residential and commercial properties with Sotheby's aggressive global marketing strategies and exposures. Jeff, tell us what we need to know.
All right, I can do that. First of all, thanks for having me. And yeah, everything that you said is true. I was born and raised very near to you guys in Tampa, Florida. I worked there for about 14 years and moved to Los Angeles, worked there for about 6, and came over to Barcelona, well, for the Mediterranean lifestyle. And here I am. So I'll jump right into it. The Barcelona real estate market is Europe in general and Spain is very different from the United States. And I think it's very important to know for those agents who wish to send me referrals, and for those agents who are taking in international clients that are accustomed to the European system. And I gather that that would be a useful topic to discuss. So I can go over both of those things. I'd love to tell you how amazing Barcelona is. For those of you who don't know, it's on the Mediterranean coast. It's only a couple hours from the French border. We have mountains, we have incredible culture, we have architecture, modernista architecture. Each neighborhood is diverse and unique, slightly different. And maybe what a lot of people don't realize is while Barcelona is a European capital, up and down the coast, actually I find it quite similar to California. There's hills and sea views and city views, and there's lovely single family homes that you might find a bit more similar to in Florida there. Now, we have many differences, and I'll start by the fact that you don't need a real estate license in Spain, in most countries in Europe, which is why Aldina, what she was discussing is rather quite important. If you're going to send a referral to somebody here in Spain or anywhere in Europe, it's extremely important to know this person and know that they have a history and a background and ethics and all of these things. There's no governing body per se for real estate agents. For the brokers, for the companies, there is. No schooling is required. So if somebody is a bartender or selling shoes or whatever job they do and they decide to be a realtor, they could be so the next day if a company will hire them. So huge difference there. Another big difference is that we do not have an MLS system here, and the price of home sales is not a matter of public record. So what does that mean? It means that it's difficult to value property here. Unlike in Florida, where you have a subdivision, you have 4 homes that have sold the last 6 months, you can look at the price, you can look at the square footage, and you can determine, for the most part, a pretty accurate picture of what the price is. In Spain, that does not exist. And in fact, in the European Union, there's some serious privacy laws that would prevent that, I believe, in most countries in Europe. So what does that mean for our market? It means that things move slower here. And in my opinion, it's because not knowing what the value is, whether it's the seller or the buyer, everything slows down. Most of you will be surprised to hear that a property that's very nice, that's priced accurately or close to accurately, can be on the market for 3 to 6 months to a year, and nothing's wrong with that property. It doesn't mean that we don't have properties where we have immediate interest and multiple offers, but it's the exception opposed to the rule. Another big difference is the majority of real estate listings here are non-exclusive. So it's one major, well, all of these to me are setbacks to the European market compared to the United States and to Florida. What that means is that you can have the same property listed by multiple agencies, which can be very confusing for a buyer. So what does all this mean? Obviously, as a salesperson, I'm going to tell you that you should send your people to me because I know the differences, subtle and glaring differences between the markets. Yeah, so let me see. Let me continue on here on my list. I don't want to keep too much time. Another big difference is property taxes. Here, it's not uncommon to find, in fact, I'll give you a real example. I've sold to American clients who are a referral through the Sotheby's International Realty Referral System, property in Eixample, which is the neighborhood probably most iconic outside of the Old Town in Barcelona, for 725,000 euros. The annual property tax on that is about 1,800 euros a year. That's it. The property taxes don't change based on the sale, as they do in Florida. When you sell a house, the property assessor reassesses based on the sale, and then the taxes go up. Here, it's not like that. Now, they do get their taxes, however, and there is a 10% transfer tax at the time of purchase. So for that 725,000 euro sale, the buyer had to pay 725,000 euros, had to pay 72,500 euro transfer tax. So what does that mean? In my opinion, it means that there's not a lot of flippers here. There's not a lot of people buying and flipping properties because you have to pay them that 10%. If you keep the property for 5 years or more, in my opinion, then the taxes end up being way less. And if you keep it for 10 or 15, 20 years, it's a family property, a property that you keep in for a long time, then the taxes become very, very low, which is, to me, a big benefit.
Jeff, before you go on, we have a question relating to that about the valuations and pricing. Does that mean that multiple agents may have multiple different prices for the property? And do they set their valuations by the story they tell, or
Sure.
how best they can tell a story?
Well, with us, we have a clause in our mandate. They're called here mandato de venta. And our listing agreement, it says that the price must be the same across all agencies if we're in a non-exclusive. We do have some properties in exclusivity, but unfortunately the majority are not. So for Sotheby's, which, as everybody knows, carries the name and the mark and the brand, we do not allow for that. And if we see it, then it's in our mandate so that we can change that. In terms of evaluating the property, that is a setback. If two other agencies already have the property before they come to Sotheby's or before we find them and contact them, and the price is set, it's very difficult to convince the seller to put their price at a price that we believe is reasonable and that could get it sold. However, of course, we try, but it's a problem. And again, that's why properties that you can see that can remain on the market for many months, because in my opinion of this confusion. Thank you for the question. I hope I answered it okay.
Yes.
A quick note, Airbnb, because we get a lot of Americans that say, oh, well, I want to buy this apartment. I want to go a couple of months out of the year and I'll just Airbnb it otherwise. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on what side that you're looking at, short-term rentals are not allowed unless the property has a tourist license. The property must already have that tourist license because they quit making them many, many years ago in an effort to keep what is a rather small town, small city, excuse me, affordable for local people. In my opinion, I think it's a good thing. So if the property does not have a tourist license, there's midterm renting, which has a lot of benefits in my opinion. I'm happy to explain to anybody that has more questions. They can contact me later. But midterm leases are between 32 days and 11 months. So yeah, something to take a note of. Now, another big difference is the contracts. Unlike in the United States where you get it in contract as quickly as possible and then you have all these outs. You have the property inspection, you have the appraisal, you have the loan contingency, you have many contingencies. It's not like that here. In fact, when you pay the deposit, it's generally direct to the seller. It's generally 10%, and you've, for the most part, purchased that property. This is another reason, in my opinion, why properties are on the market longer here and things don't move as fluidly. So it's very important that your clients that you refer to me have done their due diligence, have done the due diligence not only on the property as physical itself, but on the title. Also, there's no title insurance here because the title is clean and cleared prior to purchase. There's numerous differences. In the end, it's the same. You know, there's property and you're transferring title. It's guaranteed to be a clean title. It's just done in a different fashion. A very important thing for potential clients that you send here or buyers that are interested in Spain. If you are in physically Spain for 183 days out of one calendar year, you are now a tax resident of Spain for that year. And like the United States, you will be required to pay taxes, the equivalent of federal income taxes on your global income, like the United States. So we have a lot of clients who come, they stay for 180 days, and then they get right out of Dodge. Very, very important to know if you are discussing with somebody who's thinking about Spain. Or, of course, just send them to me, and I'll take care of that. How am I doing on time, Ben?
You got about 10 more minutes.
Oh, good, good. Okay, so the Golden Visa. We have an incredible amount of people that contact us. One, because Barcelona is just fantastic. The climate, it's a very cosmopolitan city, the most cosmopolitan in Spain, in my opinion. Madrid is up there, but in Barcelona, you have everything and people from all over the world. And to me, it's the most connected city in Spain to Europe, to the rest of Europe, not just proximity-wise, but with transport. So we have a huge demand of U.S. buyers. In fact, like you've mentioned about Canada going to the U.S., we have a long line of clients that are ready to come and make purchases. And in fact, I've already done 2 deals with sight unseen. So people have bought properties through virtual visits, through video chats and things of this nature. The majority of those people, in fact, all of them, were after the Golden Visa, which is a visa that Spain gives to home buyers or property investors who invest a minimum of 500,000 euros cash in property. Okay, so it has to be 500,000 euros in cash. The property can be anywhere between 500,000 euros and unlimited. You can get financing, providing that you contribute 500,000 euros cash to the property. That cannot include the 10% tax transfer. It cannot include the other closing costs, which I will go over. So this program is incredible. And somebody making this purchase, this investment, is not only investing in the property, obviously, but they're investing in a lifestyle. And what it allows people to do is for them and their family spouse and children, dependent children. It gives them the right to live and work in not only in Spain, but in the Schengen zone. And sorry, I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that correct. But it's not quite the European Union, and I'm sure Steve can help to clarify this for me. But it's not all the countries within the European Union, but the majority of them. And with this visa, you can live and work in Europe. And a lot of people are after that. So just like people are trying to find their way to the United States, I think it's going both ways. I think people want choices these days. And as the world shrinks and globalizes, Spain is offering a ticket to Europe. So even if you buy your property in Spain, it doesn't mean that you have to live there. It doesn't mean that you have to work there. It means that you now have access to the European Union. There are a few requirements, such as you must have health insurance, local Spanish health insurance. You must visit Spain once a year. How terrible. And a few other things that I'm happy to answer in private and email. So,
Jeff, can you tell us about the transfer of title? Is that done through attorneys, notarials, or how that whole transfer event, and how long does it take to, once you decide to buy a house, to actually complete that process?
It takes a lot of time compared to the United States. There's no 30-day closings here. And that is because the title is sorted out prior to the transfer. I would say 60 days would be the quickest. We've pulled off shorter. If it's all cash and it's a very straightforward property with no title issues or anything like that, then it can go quick. But I like to prepare people for 60 to 90 days. That's really from the time that you sign the contract to the closing. So as I mentioned, there's no title companies. Everything in Spain is done by the notary. And the notary isn't your neighbor who got this license, who can stamp your signature. The notary in Spain is like the judge and the jury. They're very highly trained, many years of schooling, and when they write and record something, it is. That's what it is. So these things are done at the notary. Sotheby's, Barcelona, and Costa Brava, by the way, which I want to speak about Costa Brava before we sign off, and Maresme, where I live. And we have an internal lawyer who can help with the most basic things. And of course, if there is a bit more intense work to be done law-wise, of course, we can recommend attorneys, or of course, our lawyer, Jesus, can help in that sense. In terms of the golden visa, we recommend an immigration attorney. So the short answer to that is that closings are done at the notary, escritura, and we always recommend to have legal representation. Yes.
Are the notaries only in major metropolitan areas, or can you get them?
No, there's notaries all over.
Okay.
Yeah. There's businesses, and the notary also does marriages. They do everything. They're the judge and the jury. So that would be the final visit that you would have, is at the something about banking that I should discuss. When you find a property and you love it and you want to buy it and you've done your due diligence and you pay 10% deposit, that's the arras deposit, or deposit contract. With that 10%, somebody can pay from any bank. They can pay from their bank in the United States. To buy a property in Spain, you must sign the escritura. You must go to the notary with a Spanish bank transfer or check. So you must eventually open a Spanish bank account prior to closing on the property. And if it's a very large property in the multiple millions and your client is paying cash, it's very important to open and start that relationship sooner rather than later, because you don't want the money to get held up. There's money laundering laws and there's things of this nature between the European Union and the United States that you can't just be anybody and open an account and put 2 or 3 million euros in it. So it's important to get that process started early. And it's important also for clients to realize that while they can reserve the property with a bank account from anywhere, they must open a Spanish bank account to finalize the sale. So just quickly about our office, because you mentioned it in my little LinkedIn description there. We have offices in Barcelona, in the city center. We have an office in Maresma, which is the northern coast of Barcelona, which is, to me, just brilliant. It's beautiful, the climate, everything. You're 20 minutes from Barcelona. You have the sea, beaches. There's some vineyards. There's a wine culture. There's a huge gastronomy culture here. And then a little bit further down the coast is the Costa Brava, which is very famous. Cadaqués, it's magical, and this region is fantastic. So we have 2 offices in Costa Brava, one in Begur and one in Playa de Aro. And we have an office in Maresma, and then we also have an office in Barcelona. So this entire region we can serve and facilitate customers. And depending on what lifestyle the clients want, do they want to live full-time, part-time? Do they want beaches? Do they want culture? Do they want to go to plays? Do they want cinema? Do they want these things? We can help and guide in all of those questions.
Thank you. Sure. Thank you. We're next going to go to Steve Maggi and
Maggi, yeah.
Maggi, and he is a primary founded SMA, which is Steve Maggi Esquire, and he specializes in U.S. immigration and consular law boutique firm in New York. He's from Georgetown Law Center, graduate in international law, Morgan Lewis and Bokius. And after several years in the international corporate and finance practice, he decided to start his own firm based in Buenos Aires, another place where we'd like to all go here, in Argentina, with a specialized focus on U.S. immigration and consular law. Over the course of 8 years in Buenos Aires, SMA prepared petitioning at the U.S. consulate, South America, and around the world, including investors' visas, tourism, business visas, while simultaneously handling all European-based visas and green cards for its U.S.-based clients. The consular practice included subspecialties of waivers, which help lift legal bars to entry to the U.S. SMA has presented clients in approximately 50 embassies. That's a huge amount. In 2011, Mr. Maggi set up his New York SMA, which he currently manages to maximize SMA's ability to help individuals and companies worldwide with their version of their American dream. SMA works with franchises and service-oriented businesses in order to create investment opportunities for foreign nationals, obtain investment visas, EB-5 cards, assisting foreign companies who want to expand their businesses into the United States, and send management and specialized persons to undertake these expansions. As a former immigrant and a naturalized U.S. citizen, Mr. Maggi understands the legal immigration process, both on the professional and the personal level. And I think the things that I'm expecting him to say today is going to be, I think, phenomenal, because this is going to be such a big part of the business that the next the next 2 years are going to afford us here in the Florida area. Steve?
Thank you so much, Daniel. Sorry for that long bio. I'm going to cut it down a little bit next time. You mentioned in the introduction about my immigration story, and I think that's what's most important here, besides my expertise, is that I've been through this process. So I'm originally from Argentina. My mom was born in the US. Her parents came from Hungary through Ellis Island. But because she didn't live in the US as an adult, she left when she was 18. She went to Argentina to study art. She couldn't get me a passport as a US citizen when I was born in Argentina. And when my parents split, my father's side is Argentinian, Cuban, Italian, Spanish. So my great-grandmother is from Vigo, which is in the northwest corner of Spain, right near Portugal. When they split, she took me to the States, and because she hadn't lived there as an adult for a year, I had to go through a 9-year process to eventually become a US citizen. So I understood from a very small age how difficult it is to go through an immigration process, and that's why I decided to go into immigration law. What I decided to do today was present a presentation. I'm going to share my screen now, that has specifically to do with Spain. And that's because this is everything is very country specific when it comes to US immigration. And it really is, can you guys see my full screen now?
Yes.
It really is important which country you come from and which passports you hold to see what you're eligible for, what options. Obviously, when I speak to real estate groups and at conferences, I'm speaking to potential investors, and that's what I'm going to talk about here because my chief focus is investment-based visas, but also the brokers who are interested in learning more about how to get their clients to the US permanently if they can, you know, looking at more than just coming in as tourists or having a pied-à-terre and investing, but actually when they want to live in the United States, what options do they have? And so I'm going to talk about a few that have a few options that Spanish nationals have that have to do with investment. So let's talk about first, the main question that I always get when I speak at these conferences: do you need a visa to buy real estate in the US? The answer is that you don't. As a lot of you know or experienced in the world of US real estate, there are a lot of foreign investors who buy to invest or to have a pied-à-terre, but they don't necessarily need a visa just to buy the property. But if they're interested in doing so, that's when I would come into the picture. So what you need to know is that you can manage a property, you can have a proxy, or you can set up a company to manage a property that you have in the US, but you are not allowed to manage it yourself unless you have a visa to actually run the company that you've set up. So you cannot run a business for profit without a visa. This is very important because ownership itself does not give you any immigration rights. So it's very different from what Jeff was talking about. If the US is going to look a little bit bad now if somebody's deciding between Spain and the US, because we don't have a golden visa. You cannot get a green card just for investing in the US. Do Spanish nationals get preferential treatment? And the answer is a resounding yes. How so? Well, two ways that manifests itself. Number one, it's one of the 38 visa waiver countries, meaning that you are part of this ESTA system and you can enter the United States without actually getting a visa. As long as you sign up through the ESTA website, you can get 2 years of active ESTA status, which allows you to travel to the US, which for brokers in the US is very important because you want to physically show your properties to people and the communities and the neighboring areas for people to get an idea of what it's like to actually live in the United States. That is not possible for people from a lot of countries, especially now with COVID. It's hard to actually get a visa. Most of the embassies are not processing tourist visas. So that's one huge advantage for Spanish nationals. The second is my favorite. It's what I call my baby, which is an E2 visa. Spain has a bilateral treaty with the United States, which allows any national, anybody with a Spanish passport to start a business in the United States and get a visa for 5 years with unlimited renewals to run that company. So and then there's no limit in terms of verticals, in terms of what kind of investment, and it can be passive or active. So for entrepreneurs who have existing businesses, I have a few that I've done for wine exports, for cheese exports, for things that are based on food items, for example, shipping, any industry that you already have some sort of niche in or that you're interested in running in the US, you can set up your own startup. But you can also do it passively, meaning you can buy a franchise or buy an existing business and you can get a visa to run that business. A few of the most important points to keep in mind. I'm not expecting you guys to understand like an attorney would understand, but you have to understand certain concepts about E2 if you're talking to your clients about how they can come. Number one is at least 50% of the US company that is set up to sponsor the investor must be Spanish owned, meaning you can have partners and other investors, but the majority of the business must be owned by Spanish nationals and or companies. The biggest question I get with E2 is how much do I need to invest? There's no minimum investment according to the law. What is required is what's called a substantial investment. And that means enough funds to cover operating costs for 1 full year. So you want to create jobs. You want to project that you're creating jobs. And 2 is the magic number in my experience for the first year. So whatever you're doing, you need to make sure that you're investing enough to cover those projected costs. Otherwise, you're not going to pass this substantiality test. Another thing is you need to have a physical premises. It's called sufficient physical premises. You can't just say you're going to work from home. And of course, that's come into vogue now because of COVID, but what they want to see that you're actually securing a physical space. Another important thing is once you've met all the legal requirements, the final decision is made on whether your business will be successful. And that's measured in 2 ways. One is, will it eventually generate profits that are taxable? And most importantly, will you generate American jobs, US jobs? Now that we've gone through a very high level of unemployment because of COVID, this visa is more important than ever. And it's applied for at the US Embassy in Madrid. And I think that there's going to be a strong emphasis on approving these visas because the US really needs new jobs to be created. For those people who ask about a foreign entity, that might be confusing with what's called an L1. You don't have to have any existing business overseas in Spain or anywhere else in order to apply for the E2. The most important thing to keep in mind is the benefits to the US. So whenever I submit one of these petitions, and I've done over 200 E2 petitions over the years, you have to do it from the viewpoint of the US. How does this benefit the US? And that is showing that it's not marginal, meaning that not just the investor and their family members will benefit, but the US economy in general. A good number for the 5 years is to project 5 jobs will be created. And then obviously, if you've created 5 jobs, you've got the revenue generated to do that and you'll be paying taxes. So those are the key concepts for E2. Now, how do you go about setting up a business or going to the US and figuring out what kind of business you want? We have some Spanish clients who have purchased franchises, rights to franchises in certain geographic areas in the US where they want to live. And the great thing about that is that you can use ESTA or visa waiver to enter the US, and that allows you to lay the groundwork, including setting up a US bank account, doing the incorporation of the company, getting the tax ID, and then securing that lease for the premises. If it's a business that's service oriented, then you can have an office in that space if it's a restaurant or a laundromat or an ice cream shop. But the beauty of the franchise is that it allows you to have outside resources and support and the training that you need, as well as the backing of that franchisor in order to be successful. How about passive investment? Now, I think that Daniel mentioned this before we started. This is always what I need to talk about. It's like a requirement for talking in a real estate forum, and that's EB-5. So let's talk about the myth. Let's bust the myth first. And the question that I always get asked is, can you get permanent residence just from buying a property, like Jeff's equivalent golden visa? And the answer is no. EB-5 is a category that requires investors to create 10 full-time jobs within 2 years of receiving what's called a conditional green card. And real estate investment does not create those 10 jobs by itself. So you cannot obtain it just by buying a property. Usually people invest in what are called regional centers or with established developers that have a track record of success. And success is measured by the amount or the percentage of cases where the person got a conditional green card, then they showed that 10 full-time jobs or more were created based on their investment, and then they got permanent green cards. So you can imagine if you're investing all this money, and I'll talk about how much it is in a second, and you do not get to the end, which is the green card permanent residence for you and your spouse and your dependent children, then you've not only lost the investment, but you've lost all that time and you have to leave. So the most important thing to keep in mind is that you need to invest well, meaning you need to invest in something with an established track record. There are many projects in the Florida area that have really been built up through EB-5. And so another thing to keep in mind is you don't have to invest, because this is passive investment in a project that's in the state where you want to live. I have clients that move to Alaska, Hawaii, and their investments are in other states. But for the purposes of this talk, since we're talking about Sarasota and Manatee County, and I'm in Pinellas, and there's somebody that's in Jacksonville, you know, anywhere in Florida. There are many projects. If you want to contribute to the local economy, there are a lot of great EB5 projects. There's one that I've been working with in the Tampa area that has something like 32 projects that they've been able to fund through EB5. And so the most important thing here is to understand that these things need to be kept separate. So if you're a real estate broker and you're working with a budget, let's say a $500,000 house, and your client has $1.5 million, then it's something that's feasible. You need to come up with a strategy that combines these two things, because now the minimum investment as of about a year and a half ago is $900,000 in most cases, and you need to make sure that that is the amount, but that's the amount. Plus these regional centers charge anywhere between $50,000 and $100,000 in fees. You have legal fees, et cetera. So you're looking at approximately $1 million of investment. And if you're a broker, you need to add that to whatever the investment in property is. These are separate processes.
So the biggest difference between the E2 and the EB5 would be more or less active versus passive. Is that correct?
Well, technically with EB5, you can do what's called a direct investment. So you could set up your own company and invest. Like I had a client that did E2 and then used a series of gym franchises called Crunch in Florida to then expand and then eventually show that he had invested more than $500,000 and do his own thing. But the chances of getting an approval are much less that way. It's very risky because, as many of you know, even those of you who are in Spain, a lot of US businesses fail. Even removing the part about getting your visa and being a foreign national, it's not familiar with the local markets. It's already challenging enough. So the safest bet is usually to go with something that's an established track record. E2, on the other hand, the downside is there's no direct platform or path to a green card. So it's usually for people who want to run a business, make their money, and have an exit strategy, or really because for tax reasons or other reasons, they don't want to get those green cards. So something to keep in mind, I don't think I put it here, but E2, there are 80 countries that have a treaty. And the BRICS countries, so Brazil, Russia, India, Indonesia, China, and South Africa do not have treaties. And so that's why you see nationals from those countries applying for EB5 because they don't have an E2 option. So E2, yes, it is what you make of it, but it's more for active investors unless they do it through a franchise. Whereas EB5 can be, I think 95% of them are passive. So important to keep in mind that you must keep these things separate. So there's no golden visa in the US. Last thing I'm going to talk about is just logistics. COVID has thrown a monkey wrench in a lot of things right now. And my job as a consular practitioner too is to help my clients who are overseas to get into the US. So how can they do that now is the question. And when I do these presentations, this changes every month, literally. So let's look at some of these current obstacles. Right now, there is no direct entry into the US from Spain, as well as the Schengen countries. So I think somebody had alluded to the Schengen countries. Schengen countries are all the EU countries minus UK, Ireland, Cyprus, Bulgaria, Romania. So essentially most of the EU, which means that if you're in Spain right now, you cannot take a flight directly to the United States. You need to triangulate through a third country. So we have a lot of people triangulating through the Caribbean and Mexico, where you quarantine for 14 days. Quarantine, I do the quotes in the air because it's really on the beach or something. It's actually helped tourism in those areas. So you can triangulate if it's really important for you to be physically in the US. And then you can stay for the duration of either your visa or if you have ESTA for 90 days. There is something called the national interest exception, which applies in very limited circumstances. President Biden actually limited this more now as of March 2nd. So before, people who were executives and managers and even artists could come to the US if they could show that there was an economic need in the US. But now this standard has been changed to what's called infrastructure, critical infrastructure. So I don't recommend people trying to go this route, but if you need to, what you do is you apply directly through the US Embassy in Madrid, and you have to have your active ESTA or your visa in order to apply. And then the last part is there is a COVID test requirement within 3 days of traveling. So be very careful to monitor what the regulations are at the time you're thinking of traveling and make sure that you're complying. If you need to apply for the waiver, the exception, obviously you need to work with somebody who knows how to do that. And hopefully July 4th, the president has said that he hopes that everybody in the US will be vaccinated. So I'm also hoping that the doors will open and that people will start being able to travel from Europe and Spain directly. Any questions?
Looking to see if anybody from the audience here has any. Steve, if somebody, if their first step would be, if they're thinking to come here, should their first call be to you or someone like you?
Sure. I mean, I pride myself on having contacts and having a wheelhouse of other professionals that can also contribute to coming up with a strategy. I think the most important thing is that if they're Spanish nationals, that they make sure that their ESTA status is active, just as a starting point. So if they need to travel to the US, they can start planning that. But sure, I'm always happy to be a first point of contact.
And how long should they plan on that process? If they're wanting to get the green card, is it a year?
EB-5 right now is number one. First of all, the most important thing is to take as much time as necessary to find the right investment vehicle. Because like I said, if you invest in the wrong thing, you're going to end up losing your green card. That's the most important thing. And there are organizations, I even know one here in Florida, that do vetting of these EB-5 projects in order for you to really choose the right one. So that's the most important thing. After that, what's important to keep in mind is that there are backlogs. And so you need to make sure your ESTA is active or that you have a visa that's active so you can continue to travel while it's processing. But right now you're looking at anywhere between 9 months and up to 2 years, depending on different factors for how long it will take to actually get your immigrant visa to come into the US.
Steve, someone is asking for your number, if you could put that up on the, it just had your email stuff, so we can put that up on the back. If all the representatives could type that in the chat for everyone, that'd be wonderful as well.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I would say the best thing to do always is to email so we can set up a proper time to speak.
Okay.
But I put it there just in case.
Okay, great. All right. Any other questions? Thank you, Steve. For the remaining after as we get to see all this great cooking over here, I'm going to ask you a question as the close of the event that was recommended by Glo, one of our members of the GBC, is to find out what was the most interesting event or that happened while you were doing your job. Okay, Fatima, let's hear about you. So you have your...
Daniel, before we start, we're gonna need her to unmute.
Okay. Fatima, can you unmute when you get a chance? While she's doing it, she is from Tenerife, one of the Canary Islands, Spain, and has over 10 years of expertise in the culinary or catering industry. She prepares dishes from Spanish and Mediterranean. My specialties are paella. I consider that our paellas and tapas are the most authentic from Spain that you can find in the area. As our dishes are made from scratch, we also customize all the dishes to meet everybody's needs, such as vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, and gluten-free, lactose-free, kosher, etc. We also want to make everyone enjoy our catering. As my friend and family knows, I always have been passionate about cooking, and the youngest of a family of 12. One of the things that Chef Fatima is doing is she also has a special for us afterwards that we'll let her, as she gets to do, but we'll have Cassidy, did you have that paper that we could put about her information as well, since she's going to be cooking?
I will add that to the Google Drive doc for everyone.
Okay, wonderful. So without further ado, Fatima, make our mouth salivate.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. As you said, I'm from Tenerife, the Canary Islands in Spain, and I've been doing that catering for more than 10 years. And talking about the Canaries, to know where are they are in the coast of Africa. So if Florida is here, we have a line, and the 7 islands are in the other side of the Atlantic. That is the last port that Christopher Columb lost, part from to discover the New World. And the islands, there are 7 islands, they are volcanoes. And the nice thing is that islands were the first one from the New World come to Europe. So we had all the goodies that came from the New World to start in Europe. And so that was like the first port that stopped, and then going to the mainland. The islands are 7, and I like to tell you about some tips about the Canary Islands. Because they are very tourist, and that is are very realtors. So I think will be interesting to know about the Canary Island. We are volcano islands, so the climate are like South California, the Hawaiian. I see sometimes picture of Hawaii and remind me to the Canaries because they are volcano island. The canary bird was named after the island, so the canary, the bird. Nelson, the British lost his arm in Tenerife. We are very proud of that. And we have the highest point in Spain, that is the volcano El Teide from Tenerife, is the highest point in Spain. And the Hierro, that is a very tiny island, is to be energy-free, self-sufficient, like in the water, wind, and air. And also in La Gomera, that is a tiny island, we have the whistle language. They can understand each other because they are valleys, they are very deep, and to understand each other, they invent that whistle, and it's called I got myself, it's Silvo Gomero. So they whistle and they understand each other. And the island, they have very own microclimates. So everything that you plant there, because we have humidity, we have dry, we have very green and windy. So everything you plant in the Canary Island, they grow. We have the bananas are very famous in Europe, all the bananas, and like the pineapple, and we have very tropical fruit. We have 12 million visitors going to the Canary Islands in the year. And we have like Florida is a snowbird for America. The Canary Island is for Europe. We have a lot of British, Germans, and that they go to the Canary to spend the vacation or having a second home there. And also the wave in the Canary Island, I'm very known worldwide for doing surf or windsurfing. We do, a lot of competition over there. And also that is an anecdote, San Antonio, Texas was founded by families from the Canary Island, exactly from Tenerife. This has 6 families. Our gastronomy in the Canary Island is very simple. We have a lot of fish and a lot of corn, potatoes. I think all the potatoes that came from the New World, we planted because we have like microclimate. They have a lot of potatoes, they grow very well. And, and also the Canaries were located before the Canal de Suez, that these days have been very popular because they didn't have all the Portuguese, British, Irish, Italian, French to go either to America or to go to Asia. They have to stop in the Canary. So our background is very interesting. We have a lot of Germans, a lot of British, Irish people, and also the port, was very active with different goodies that maybe in the mainland we didn't have it. We had like cheeses from Holland or, chocolate from England. And going to Spain, to the gastronomy of Spain. Spain is known for the gastronomy. I think it's one of the most richest food from, I don't know anyone who goes to Spain and come back and say, oh my God, the food was so good. I think the Spanish food is very simple. We follow the Mediterranean diet, and depends where you go in Spain, you will have different food. And also I believe that the richness of the Spanish food is ancestors. The way, depending on where you are and depend on ancestors that were there before, they left something. Like in the south of Spain, Andalusia, you have a lot of tomato soup, cold soup, they fry, a lot of tiny fishes, and so they have more. If you go to next to Madrid, around this area, it's because it's more cold. You have a lot of soups, bean soups, that we like it, that were left it by the Jewish. We have a lot of spices like cinnamon. One funny thing that here I discovered, that we use the lemon, the yellow lemon. In South America, they don't know the yellow lemon. We don't use the green lemon. In Spain, we use yellow lemon. Here I put, I think, one of the basic that we have, from the tomato that came from the New World. We use it a lot in Spain. The garlic, we are known by the garlic, tomatoes, onions, parsley, and the olive oil. We are the #1 exporter of olive oil, of the olives to make the olive oil. And then, so basically when you buy here Italian or Greek olive oil, the olives come from Spain. One thing that I found it interesting here is the olive oil. You have the regular olive oil, that is very clear. That is what we use for cooking. That one is very mild in flavor. The olive oil extra virgin or Evo is a dark, is the first press of the olive. That one usually comes in dark bottles and it's more expensive. That olive oil, we use it for having like in a roll, that is a tapa that I'm going to make now, or to have it with veggie, to have it raw. We don't fry, although we cook for that, first of all, because it's more expensive. And second, it burns so fast and give a lot of aromatic. So if you're making something, don't use that one because it will be very aromatic for the thing.
Fatima, what are you making for us today?
So I'm making, that is a tapa. Let me explain to you what is a tapa. The tapa is a way to live, a way to eat. So when you go to Spain and going eating tapa, you share a small plate, everybody. And you can have tiny, tiny tapas, tiny plates, and you share with everybody that is eating. The meaning of the tapa is cover in Spain. So in the old days, it's so many things that to say about the tapa, but the most that make more sense is cover. So in the old days, you can get flies inside your wine. So to prevent, to cover, tapar the glass, to prevent to go flies. And also, if you drink, you have to eat. If you drink without eating, you get drunk, right? So then the taverners start to add something on top of that bread. So that meaning of the tapa. So that is something when you go to Spain, you get, when you ask for a glass of wine or beer, you get something to eat. Like it's very normal to have some olives, some chips, something to eat. And that is something also you can drink more. So today, one tapa that I'm going to make, that is very easy. I have some bread, in Spain, for us, the bread is like, we eat everyday bread. And Serrano ham, I'm sure you have heard about the Serrano ham. That is the best. We said the Spaniard, we can have discussions here, about the Serrano ham is better than the prosciutto, of course. That is from Barcelona, from Catalonia, but we have it all over the world. So I have bread, that is a baguette. You cut it, I like it to cut it in long way, so it's longer. You can use any type of bread, baguette type of bread. I toast it, so now I have an tomato. When you buy tomato, try to get it the most reddish, and that is hard, but you see that it's ripe. When a tomato can be very yellow, and it's not because it's not ripe. For cooking, we need a very ripe tomato. So here I have some toasted bread. So let me take it here instead of that. So I have my plate and I have my toasted bread. I like it to have it toasted. If you like it to have it without toast, that would be nice, Then in Barcelona and Catalonia, they have a garlic. You can wrap a garlic if you like garlic. And one tip that I'm going to tell you about garlic, that sometimes people that they don't eat garlic because they repeat it. When you buy garlic, the head of fresh garlic, make sure that the garlic, it is hard, because if it is soft, that is overdue. That is old. And you see that inside, when you cut it, you have a vein. If you take that vein out, that prevents you to repeat garlic. So that is a tip that I give you. So you can do garlic, you can wrap a garlic if you want, but what I'm going to do is with, I have a room tomato, you can use any other tomato, and you just wrap the tomato on top of the bread. You just wrap it like this. You see how the tomato, all the pulp of the tomato go into the bread. So you just wrap it, you know, all the liquid, all the seed goes. And then I just put extra virgin olive oil, a good one, and you just breathe a drop, you know, on top. And I have a good salt, you know, kosher salt, that is Maldon salt. You just put a little bit. And I have some Soriano ham, and you put it on top, and you have a wonderful tapa to have. That is also very good for breakfast. That is, I like to have that bread with the tomato and have it. That is very simple. So if you have with a good wine of Spain, that would be great. And so you have any question for me? And I have also for you to know, because my love of the traditional and authentic food from Spain. A year ago, I started a YouTube channel. It's called Fatima Spanish Kitchen, where there you can find recipes from Spain, and I film it here. And that is the recipes that I grew up and the typical that if you go to Spain, you will have. You will find tapas, the sangria, and also the dishes that are more popular from Spain is the paella, of course, everybody knows paella, sangria, but one thing when you go to Spain, drink red sangria. The Spaniards we laugh because when we see white sangria or, you know, white wine sangria, that is for tourists, because the sangria, the meaning is blood, and I think all our blood is red. So that is, so don't, you know, don't go. And also if you go to Spain, another tip, don't go to eat where you see so many people outside the restaurant showing the menus, you know, and they have pictures in the menu and they have a very long menu, because I think those places are very tourist. And coming from a very tourist area, I know what I'm talking about. So ask anyone that you find where you can have a good tapa, where the Spaniards go, or if you are driving and you are in the highway and you see a lot of trucks eating there, you must go there, because there you will eat the best food. And also you follow the time to eat. So don't go to eat at 12 o'clock, because everything in the morning will be closed. The lunches are at 2. So, you know, we have a different, and I think if you go to visit Spain, you have to follow our time. Now with the COVID, everything is changed, but you know.
When I was in Spain, I had the great fortune to following a little puppy who had a big ham bone in his mouth, and it was so funny. He took me right to the greatest ham place I could find there in Alicante. So it was fantastic. Yeah. So you also are, what I'm saying, hearing is that you are offering everybody in free delivery and a free Spanish flan when they order the special menu.
Yes.
That you're offering, and that's Mediterranean salad and homemade dressing, paella, seafood and meat, dessert almond cake, and it is for $26.99 for a minimum of 8 People, and it's all gluten-free. And the code on there, we'll have that is Tapas Realtor
yes.
21.
Yes.
Yeah, those.
So it's the menu is a very typical, you know, it's a delivery. So for the realtors or the people who are attending in Sarasota, Manatee, that is where I started with the COVID with that menu. That is a Mediterranean salad, you said, the paella mixta, that is the most popular, that has meat, seafood, shrimp, mussels and clams, and organic chicken with pork, and a little bit of chorizo. And then the almond cake, that is from Galicia, and it's at the end of Camino, that is a cross, St. James cross, and it's gluten-free, and it's made with real almonds. And that one, and I add a flan, Spanish flan, that is very known, and I think is perfect. And that is minimum 8 people, $26.99 per person.
How long how much time in advance do we need to call you to? You're making me hungry.
5 days. I mean, as sooner the better, you know. So okay. I get everything, because everything I make are fresh. So as soon as better, sometimes, I mean, if it is, I can say no, if it is impossible, but I try to suit, everyone.
Okay, wonderful. So I promised you each that we were going to ask you something that was different and unique, or something that you found interesting in what you did. Aldina, we'll start with you.
With me?
Aldina, we'll start with Aldina.
Okay.
Yes, Danielle.
Was there something in dealing as ambassador for NAR that you thought was just so unique or so out of the ordinary or funny that you just wanted to share with us before you left?
What's most unique about being a global ambassador is being able to meet all these amazing people around the world that share the same passion for real estate, the same passion for culture. I am passionate about NAR because NAR is actually the voice for real estate professionals all over, and giving opportunity to countries, let's say in Spain, they don't have a license regulated. So having the opportunity to join NAR and having all that support that NAR provides, and bringing the name as a realtor recognized everywhere, that brings the real estate professionals in Spain to another level in comparison to the ones who are not a member. So I can only say that I'm passionate about NAR for being there to represent all the real estate professionals.
And if you were going to move to Spain, where would you go?
If I would move to Spain, I can tell you Costa del Sol.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay.
Del Sol.
Okay, thank you. Steve, same question.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that question applies to me specifically. Maybe you could.
Well, I'm sure you have a lot of different unique things that come your way from people coming in and wanting to do either a new business or without breaking confidentiality.
Well,
Something that you've.
You know what I think is that, there were over 400 changes to the way that the immigration law is applied under the Trump administration. And COVID allowed the administration to pass these executive orders and executive actions, which modified almost everything. And one of those things was to put a physical barrier on the US and not allow people to come in. So that's where the consular practice part of my work was, getting these people these exceptions. And if there were, I had a case, for example, a Japanese steakhouse that the manager, general manager, and the kitchen manager couldn't go to their interview. It was canceled right when COVID started. They were a week from their interview in Tokyo. They just got their visas a month ago and were able to open their business. So they spent almost a year spending money on this location, not being able to make anything or to put their business plan in place until I was able to get them this exception in order to travel to get their visa. So it's just been nonstop. It's been a nonstop challenge, and that's because of COVID and the way the administration has used that as a way to make it more difficult than it already was.
And if you were to choose a place in Spain, where would you go?
I would go to Vigo because that's where my great grandmother was from. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Fatima?
Vigo is close to my city in Portugal. We used to go to Vigo a lot.
Well, I'll come see you.
It's so close. Yes.
Fatima?
Okay, for me, knowing that I'm passionate for the food, to share the authentic Spanish food where I live, that and the people to see the reactions. So that is like how I had it in Spain. Because sometimes here there's some many cultures meeting, that sometimes you don't know where is the root. And also, to share the traditional Spanish is, a privilege that, and you see how I'm passionate, because I think the food from Spain is fantastic and everybody have to try, and, and to see that the Spanish is Mediterranean. We are not spicy, we are not South American. So
Right.
just to divide it. And the answer for the second question, you know the answer already.
Yeah.
Tenerife.
Now, let me ask you, is that a canary tweeting in the back?
Yeah, no, that is my host. That is, you know, that is Argentina. That is in Buenos Aires.
No, the bird.
The bird. Oh no, yes, I have a bird. No, I have a bird here, but it's a parakeet. It's not a parrot, it's a parakeet. And you know, if you have the chance to go to the Canary Island, it's a beautiful island. Really.
I have a friend who used to play in the and she's invited us over there many times. She used to play with the orchestra there, and she learned there, and then she ended up going to playing in Pittsburgh and all around the world, and she says you got to go there. It's like wonderful, you know. I spent my time in on the coast there at Alicante and all the way up, going around Gibraltar and all, you know, through all the way out that way. But well, I want to thank everybody for their time and their knowledge and their stories, and I can't wait to trust the taste of food. And Steve, I got people for you, and Aldina, thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day, everybody, and we'll be sending these out in a bit, so you'll be able to get everything. Thank you very, very much.